3, 2, 1. Thank you. We continue our session. Please invite to this room Ostrohliad Oleksandr Vasylovych. Hello. We are considering the issue of compliance of the candidate for position of the HSSC judge, Ostrohliad Oleksandr Vasylovych, with criteria envisaged in Part 4, Article 8 of the Law of Ukraine on HSSC. Here we have here representatives of the PCIe, chair of the PCIe, Norman Alst remotely, Mary Butler remotely, Gabriela Jotkaita-Kraskiene, John G. O'Sullivan, and Jessica Lott-Thompson, and also the HKCJ members present here, Lyudmila Volkova, Victoria Vasylyuk, Roman Duch, Kolyush Oleg, Melnik Ruslan, Bahanis Mikhailo, Roman Sabadash remotely, Svidrovich Ruslan, Kushner Igor, Tadysyuk Arman, and me as a chair of the commission have right to submit recusals, express opinions, or challenge decisions. Do you have any recusals? No, I don't have. Thank you. Madam Nadia, over to you. Regarding the candidate who is in front of us right now in this competition, he's my former student, but it was then till 2006. We had worked together at the same educational facility, but at different faculties. We have never overlapped our activities at any academic track or at any other manner. But in view of today's interview, I think that I need to reflect and disclose this information, but definitely I think that I have no bias or lack of impartiality, and I'm capable to evaluate the candidate. Do you have the same position? You don't have any reasons to submit recusal with this commission member? No. Okay. Then Mr. Bohanets is a rapporteur on this candidate. Please, over to you. Thank you. Hello, Oleksandr Vasylovych. To inform my colleagues that Ostrohliad Oleksandr Vasylovych has submitted an application to participate in the competition and to be subjected to the qualification exam as a person who is eligible according to the criteria envisaged in Article 7 of the law on the HSC. It means that he has relevant track record, not less than 7 years, and academic degree and education. Regarding his working experience and education, he has got his higher legal education in 2002, graduating from Prikарpattia Vasily Stepanik University. He studied law, he received the qualification of a lawyer, and he has received his diploma with awards. In 2008, of the Academic Council of the Odessa National Academy, Law Academy, Ostrohliad Oleksandr Vasylovych was awarded with the academic title of the Candidate of Legal Science and in specialty of criminal law and criminal process. He was also awarded with the title of Associate Professor of the Commercial Law Faculty. Regarding his experience in this sector, so just to give you generalized information, starting 2002 to 2008, this candidate worked at the Prikарpattian Legal Institute under auspices of the Vasily Stepanik Prikarpattian National University. Then he also worked in the Education and Consultation Center of the regional branch of the Odessa Legal Academy. And then from 2002 to 2009 to 2012, he also worked in the relevant Institute of the Internal Affairs. And he worked at a private university, which is called Private Institute of the King Danilo Halsky University of Law. Since 2018 till 2023, he worked at State University, Zhytomyr Polytechnic University, State Technological University, and till 2025, he worked at the State University, Zhytomyr Polytechnic Institute. Regarding information about his points and scoring which he has received within this qualification assessment, to inform you that with the decision of the Commission to adopt the results of the first stage of qualification exams, basically as of 4th February 2026, and the decision has said the following: the general result of the candidate is 353.79 points. In order to ensure full-fledged, comprehensive and objective review of information which is important for reviewing of the candidate, a special check was initiated by the Commission. Special requests were sent to public authorities, replies were received, and those replies from the public authorities regarding special check about the candidate have been attached to the joint dossier. Today we are also going to discuss information which has been received from different CSOs, including Automaidan CSO and Transparency International Ukraine CSO regarding this candidate. And in order to give replies to the candidate, the Commission has sent this information to the candidate in order to ensure additional guarantees to fulfill candidate's right to provide replies to questions. Information was also attached to the candidate's dossier, which is available for him, and he had no problems to have access to his dossier, this information. That's all. Thank you so much. That's all from my side. Oleksandr Vasylovych, do you have anything to add, object, or no? I have nothing to add. Dear Chair, over to you. Mr. Roman Sabadash, do you understand correctly that you wanted to say something? Yeah, just disclose information. It's not significant, but it's better to report it. So I think that it was a short period of time when we were students at the same university. But as far as I understand, this candidate is older than me. He graduated from the university earlier than I graduated. But since that very moment, I was not in touch with the candidate. I'm not in any friendly or close relations with the candidate. Maybe I saw him at certain events or conferences at the university, maybe with some met there, but I don't remember about it. So just to be on the safe side, I think that I should disclose this information. That's all. Thank you. So do you have any additional applications regarding this information? Mr. Robert, over to you.
No, thank you. No, I understand. Thank you for this, Mr. Chair. Whose candidate is it? John's candidate. John, please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. I'm going to call you Alexander, okay? Yeah. Let me first congratulate you on coming this far in this competitive process. And I'm going to introduce you to the other members of the PCIE. To my right is sitting Robert. Robert's our chairperson, as well as a lawyer in the Netherlands. Next to him is Judge Gabrielle, who's a Supreme Court justice or judge from Lithuania. And to her right is Jessica, who's a lawyer in Canada. And if you look up at the television, the gentleman on your right is Norman. He's a lawyer in Estonia. And the woman on your left is Mary, who's a lawyer and prosecutor at the Department of Justice in the United States. And I'm John O'Sullivan. I'm a retired federal judge from the United States. So I want to ask you some questions today about your assets and your savings and some other areas as well. But what I'd like to start with is, I know that you are presently an associate professor of law. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct.
You've never been a judge, correct?
Never. I've never been in charge.
So tell me, how has being an associate professor prepared you to become a judge?
Дякую.
Thank you.
Відповідь, напевно, складатиметься з багатьох частин.
My reply will be consisting of different many elements. Why actually an associate professor decides to become a judge? Because my area of interest is related specifically to criminal law and criminal process. My academic activities are connected to this area, and sometimes my students have this perception that a lecture having certain experience, theoretical experience, why such a lecturer doesn't try to realize themselves in certain corresponding sections. So such questions started to be on the table for quite a long time. So when first I received such questions, I was quite young, and I didn't think that for me it's appropriate to handle fate and future of other people. But now, having certain life experience, I think that I'm ready to such responsibility as a judge's responsibility, judicial responsibility. That's why I decided to try myself in such competitions. And I know that those competitions are objective, and I think that I will be capable to decently present academic circles in the high anti-corruption court.
Thank you. So let's turn to, I have some questions about property that you own or you and your wife own. The first one I'd like to discuss with you is a home that you have in the Carpathian Mountains that I understand you purchased in 2018. And you disclosed in a property declaration that you paid 148,500 hryvnia for the land plot and 98,000 for the building. I'm sorry, 148,500 for the building and 98,000 for the land plot, which is around 250,000 hryvnia. Looking at that cost, it appears to be significantly lower than the market value was at that time. And in fact, today, those properties are selling for at least 10 times more than what you paid for it. Can you explain to us why you were able to purchase that property at such a low price?
Так, звичайно, я можу це пояснити.
Of course, I can explain. The settlement where such property is located, it's not a popular touristic landmark which is famous and known for everyone, like Bukovel. That's why the price policies there are different. Even more to say that building was in very bad condition. The previous owners had not used that building for more than 10 years. That's based on their words. And even more to say, when we visited that place, that location, indeed it was like this. So actually there you can collect and harvest mushrooms at the yard which were there because no one took care after it. So it was a wooden building which was built long time ago, and it was not almost possible to use for residential purposes. Only during summertime it was possible to use it for residential purposes. That's why the price corresponded to the market price at that moment. I don't know what's price right now for such property and land plots at that specific region. And even more to say, and we also found out about it from neighbors. The previous owners planned to relocate to Kyiv for a permanent place of residence, and that's why it may be also impacted on their decision to sell this property for such price. This price is indicated in the agreement, and those agreements were provided upon request of the PCIe.
So you've indicated that the house and the property were not in very good shape. Since then, have you renovated the property or cleaned the land around it?
Yes, I am lucky with my father-in-law. He has golden hands, and I'm also not afraid of physical work. So actually, on our own, we cleaned the territory, we cleaned out the bushes. And I would like to add as well that in the house, heating and water supply systems were damaged. We've restored them. but no refurbishing, no major repair works, like the change of walls or the change of the floor or nothing that could be called major repairs have not been done.
How far is that home, the home we're speaking about, from your normal residence?
Приблизно
Approximately 35-40 kilometers.
Do you go there often?
Ні, не часто.
No, not often.
Моєї дружини є
My wife has a house that was her grandmother's house, and yes, we go to that house. But this house is now actually maybe in the state of conservation. It's not being used right now in any way.
Do you lease it out or rent it to people?
Ні, не здаємо його.
No, we are not leasing it out. We tried. Since, as I've mentioned, it's a summer house. In some places you can even see this surrounding environment through the walls. So we tried conducting some preparatory measures and to start some activity regarding the lease out of the house, but we've experimented several times with our friends, and then coronavirus epidemic started, and the full-scale invasion started, and actually it's not profitable to lease it out. Again, I would like to repeat that this is not the tourist region where people can come to. It's the end of the road. There is no road after that house. At the beginning of the full-scale invasion, for some period of time, a family from Kiev. They paid only for gas and electricity, but they lived free of charge there.
You purchased the home from the son of a academic supervisor of yours, is that correct?
Так.
Yes.
Це дійсно відповідає.
Yes, that's correct.
And did that influence the purchase price or sales price of the home? The fact that your academic supervisor's son was the owner?
Ні, це жодним чином не
No, it did not impact it anyway. I will explain in more detail. My dissertation was defended in 2007. Accordingly, the diploma of the PhD was obtained by me in early 2008. For some period of time, I kept in touch with my academic supervisor, but starting from 2010, we did not keep in touch at all. And the fact that that house was on sale, we learned from the neighbors, because my mother-in-law is from that area. So we found out about that from the neighbors living nearby. And back then we thought that maybe we would start some business, and that was an interesting offer. So that's why we bought this house.
All right, I'd like to turn to your savings and some of the other properties you own. In 2018, you declared savings in the amount of 330,000 hryvnia, and your wife's savings in the amount of 150,000 hryvnia, as well as 18,000 US dollars. Is that correct? Does that sound right?
Yes, that's accurate.
And in 2016, you purchased a brand new 2016 Citroen for approximately 617,000 hryvnia. Yeah.
Yes.
And in 2021, you purchased a new Opel P7 monocab for approximately 673,000 hryvnia.
Так.
And then very recently in 2025, you and your wife purchased a 2024 Toyota RAV4, which was worth or cost a little over 2 million hryvnia.
Так.
Yes.
Explain to me how you were able to have sufficient funds to save this amount of money as well as purchase 3 new cars.
Добре.
Okay.
Я зразу скажу,
At once, I would like to say that right now we have 2 cars, not 4 cars, as it might seem. In Ukraine, we are used to saving money, and unfortunately, due to the constant level of inflation, most citizens of Ukraine keep their savings in foreign currencies, either in US dollars or euros. Our family is not an exception, and I can tell you about the income that impacted the ability of this purchases of the cars. The first car was Mitsubishi Colt, manufactured in 2008, which we could afford. And back then, the state helped families at the birth of a child. And quite a significant amount for us. We had twins born, and the state paid us the child support in case of the birth of children. We got married in 2005. I mentioned this amount in the table that I provided as an explanation for the source of origin funds. So that was at wedding. We had 2 weddings in the family of my wife and my family. That's why that amount was significant. That was equivalent of $6,000 back then. After that, in 2016, the car was sold, and we bought a car, Citroen. Since later on, 1 more child was born, the 3rd child, and 1 car was not enough. I had to carry around children, so we had a big family, and that's why we bought the car for my wife. The car that we own now was bought recently, Toyota RAV4. It was bought at the expense of savings of our family, and I, as an employee of the university, and my wife, as a self-employed person, had savings. And we also sold the previous car, Citroen Berlingo. The amount was specified, and that was a significant share of the amount of funds that we spent on the purchase of the most recent car. The detailed calculations have been provided by me, but I understand that for convenience, I showed the amounts both in hryvnia and in dollars because inflation increased significantly over these years, and just pure mathematical calculation is not enough for that. And since we live at different floors together with the parents of my wife, so we can accumulate significant savings because actually we meet in kitchen. So our joint expenses are expenses on food products. And that's why I mentioned my parents-in-law as my family members in the understanding of the anti-corruption legislation. So our common residence is our strength at the same time because we can support each other and we can spend less on basic needs on which other families spend more.
In your response to our most recent questions to you, you indicated that you save approximately 70% of your income annually since 2002. Is that correct?
Well, almost correct. In the table, why we took 30% of our current expenses? because I was not the person subject to the declaration rules. And in order to calculate my income and possible savings, I took some relative amount that we spent. As I've mentioned, we live in the same building as our parents-in-law, plus my parents engage in a local agricultural farming. We have a small land plot in the village as well, so we are cultivating main products. But if you look at the table that I provided, after some specific period of time, there are other expenses that were not mentioned. For example, 30% is on current expenses like clothes, food, and big expenses were not included in these 30%. So when we were buying a car, in the table, I marked that from those savings, we should deduct the purchase of the car. And that also does not include current expenses on vacations, on our trips, and, for example, on repairs of apartments. And I mentioned them separately. So it does not mean that we save 30%, 70%. It just means that 30% were our current expenses on food and nutrition, and more global expenses were mentioned separately in the table.
Okay, well, I mean, you actually have a column that says amount of savings with hryvnias, and if you add up your expenses and that, it equals 100% of your salary, right? 30% plus 70%. Yes, no, you and your wife's salary, I guess, or reported income. Did you take into account, or it seems to me you didn't take into account your income taxes, which are generally about 20%.
Yes, the question of taxation. I took the official information that was available to me. So that's the information from the website of the pension fund. And maybe some of it was not taken into account, but the calculation, it's difficult to recall what happened in 2008, other years. So that's why, in order to provide full information, I took information from official sources. But the other expenses were approximate. For example, we spent that amount on money on a trip, but that could be a lower amount, but we were providing the very approximate amount, not to mislead anyone. So we specified as it is. I can just tell you that our purchases, for example, of a car, we had savings, we bought it. If we didn't have savings, we could not have bought it physically. So when we were filling in at first upon the request of the HQCJ and then upon request of the PCAE, we were proceeding based on the fact that we had the most recent purchase and we were going backwards to another big purchase. And we were determining how to calculate that. I understand that's probably not 100% accurate, but it's as close to the reality as much as I can recall it based on the documents that I had. Of course, big purchases are reflected in agreements and contracts, but smaller purchases have very approximate information. But in order to demonstrate the entire pathway of income, savings, and expenses, we chose this method of filling in the table.
Right. So this chart would justify why you would have sufficient funds to purchase the properties and the cars and other things that you purchased during those years, correct? Yep. So yes. Looking at it, some of it doesn't make sense to me. For instance, in 2016, you indicate that your household expenses were 25,680 hryvnia, which is about a little over 2,000 a month, less than $100 a month. And at that same time, Ukraine estimates what subsistence is for a family of 5 as being costing at a minimum 75,000 hryvnias. how can you explain that you could support a family of 2 adults and 3 children with only spending 25,000 hryvnias in a year, approximately 100, a little less actually than 100 US dollars, $83 per month?
Це 2016 рік,
That's
так?
2016, right?
Yes.
Можливо, це
Maybe
виглядає
it looks
замала сума, але
as a very small amount, but we were spending always the money that we had. And that's why I can explain that only by saying that we lived according to our income. Again, I would like to say that we live in the same multi-apartment building as our parents-in-law, and basically payment for utilities is done by them. And we are paying for food products and for our needs. That's why, yes, it was back then. It was the amount, and with respect to the subsistence minimum for the family is different from another family, and that's a very approximate amount, especially in Ukraine. In Ukraine, we have the subsistence minimum and the minimum that is determined as a more or less real minimum determined by the Ministry of Social Policy. But even if we look at the level before the preparation for the training, I was checking the level determined by the Ministry of Social Policy for 2025. Then this amount means that no teacher in Ukraine can have children, because the salary of a teacher and a lecturer working full-time in Ukraine corresponds to the level of the minimum that is determined by the Ministry of Social Policy. So these are very relative figures. My explanation is that we were spending the money that we had. Maybe we were saving a bit, maybe we were accumulating savings for the car to spend. That's why we spent less. So the information given there is, in my opinion, accurate to what was happening back then in that year.
And similarly, in 2017, you estimate that you spent 36 hryvnias on support or on family expenses. At that time, the government of Ukraine estimated that a family of 5 minimum subsistence would be 87,000 hryvnias. So what concerns me is that it seems like your estimates, in other words, your justification for all of the money that you had to buy cars and to buy land was because you were saving 70% a year, when at least during those years, it seems impossible to support a family of 5 on the estimates that you've indicated in your tables, which you provided to the PCIE. But let me move on now to something else, which is an apartment in a house that you and your wife own in the, I may pronounce this bad, Ivano-Frankivsk region. You familiar with those 2 properties? Yeah. How do you use those properties?
квартира і будинок.
The apartment and the house. Okay. As for the apartment, the city of Ivano-Frankivsk, this is an apartment bought by parents of my wife by participating in shares construction, and it is registered in the name of my wife because at the time we were planning how to build our future careers. I used to be a university teacher in Ivano-Frankivsk. She worked in Bogorodichana, and we thought, like, who should be moving where? And the wife's parents had an opportunity to buy an apartment from their own savings. that they accumulated since the beginning of their active work life, since 1980s and until the moment this apartment was bought. Presently, this apartment is used by us for temporary stays. When my children are in English language courses, unfortunately, there is no opportunity like that in the town I live in, so we go to Ivano-Frankivsk for that, and we use that for waiting time. So actually, there are no expenses incurred in connection with this apartment, and now we are planning to use it. As my elder children are graduating from high school this year, they plan to enter university. And they chose Ivano-Frankivsk as the city to study in. We're helping them with that, and this apartment will be used for their life during studies because this is more convenient. Because from our town where we live in up to Ivano-Frankivsk, you have to travel. As for the house,
before you address the house, how far is the apartment and house from the residence that you live in with your in-laws? Approximately.
these are different locations. The apartment is located about 20 kilometers one way, Ivano-Frankivsk. The house is located total different side. That's about 35 kilometers one way. I can also explain about the house.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
The house which is located in Huta village is a house of grandmother and grandfather of my wife. This is a family house. It was built very long time ago, about 1950s, 1960s, and inherited by my wife after reconstruction. As the area changed, the decision of the village council was those ownership right provide for this house. The price which is indicated as the cost of this house is not the price of the house because it wasn't bought. It is an estimate value of this house at the moment of its registration. So actually, 90% of this house is the previous house of grandmother, and using our own efforts and the efforts of the family. Also, father-in-law involved people knew we reconstructed this house. So as the area changed, it was registered as property in the name of my wife.
And for both these properties, the apartment and the house, do you rent it out or lease it out at all?
No, we don't rent anything out. This house is a family house. It is mostly used in summer. We come there to have some rest, and there is also a small land plot there where we grow food for our own consumption. So that's a family house. It's just that the wife's family decided to preserve it for the future generations. It was a regular village house made from round slabs, wood slabs, and we decided to preserve it for future generations, reconstructed it. We installed heating because there used to be just a wood stove in there, and we use it actually in summer now. Now during the winter, as there are constant power cuts, the system is fully put into conservation mode, and now it is not heated. The expenses are zero. I mean, this winter we haven't been there.
Well, let's talk about another piece of property that your in-laws purchased in June of 2023. Before we get to that, you indicated that you live with your in-laws along with your wife. Is your wife's what's your wife's employment?
Це будинок, який складається з
Well, this is a
кількох
house that consists
перший поверх це
several floors. The ground floor is a notary and rented out. On the first floor, there's father-in-law and mother-in-law living.
неповноцінний поверх, називається
I mean, there's not a full scale
Там проживаємо
as
я,
a
дружина і
mezzanine.
наші
So that's my wife and our children live
дружина є
there.
самозайнятою особою.
My wife is self-employed.
Яка
She's a private
працює з
notary.
моєю тещою по
So she works with my mother-in-law.
діяльність. В них спільна нотаріальна.
An agreement with joint activities. They have a joint notary office.
Is that the office that's located on the bottom of the residence?
Так.
Yes.
Там
Yes,
два
that's right.
окремі приміщення. Одне
There
з
are
цих,
two separate
одне з цих
facilities
приміщень
there, like
це нотаріальна
premises, and one of them is a notary office.
So in June of 2023, your mother-in-law and father-in-law bought a approximately 49 square meter apartment in a building here in the central part of Kyiv, which you valued at 867,000 hryvnias on the date of acquisition. And today, which that's about $33,900. And today, similar size apartments in that same complex are selling, or at least advertised, for $220,000. How can you explain the difference in the market value of what you indicate the property was purchased for versus the 5 or 6 times higher value that they're selling for now, about 2 or 3 years later, 2.5 years later?
Так, я надавав
Yes.
пояснення і на запит.
I provided an explanation upon request of the High Qualification Commission
Громадська рада міжнародних експертів.
and the Public Council of International Experts about this apartment.
Я отримав пояснення
So I actually got the explanations from legislation, got explanations from my mother-in-law and father-in-law, and documented those and passed them back. As far as they explained to me, at that moment it was a risk. If you now monitor the same apartment complex, this is a building which consists of several sections. At the moment when they were buying this apartment, they bought it at the according to preliminary agreement back from 2019. So apartment without any renovations, just windows and entrance door, and that's it. So just walls. One thing. Secondly, if you look at that again, this apartment complex was part of problematic housing. It even made it to top 25 worst problematic buildings in Kyiv. There was also a petition on Kyiv City Council website to ban the further construction of this neighborhood. And as they were buying it back in 2019, they paid the whole sum according to preliminary agreement. And there was an arrangement with the seller. They would be buying several apartments. They proposed the price which agreement. Besides, also what they provided, they looked to the prices. Then there was a message what I provided upon everyone's request that actually they were selling the separate. The price that was indicated on the screenshot, and it was $900,000 per square meters. Those apartments which are sold now, clearly at the moment when there was coronavirus and clear situation and problematic building, there's one thing. Now the prices are formed. Well, first of all, mostly these apartments are already sold renovated, so that's investments into renovation, including furniture and household electronics. And the apartment when they bought it, that they didn't have anything like that. So that also significantly influenced the price which was forming. This is what I can provide this respective information as far as it was explained.
Does anyone live in it?
В цій квартирі живе
In this apartment,
тещі і тестя, які є
Mother-in-law and father-in-law's son lives. He is a student
Національного університету Шевченка.
Kyiv National Taras Shevchenko University, and this apartment was bought for him, but as he at the moment of it he was still a minor, it was registered, as far as I remember, in the name of the father-in-law.
Well, there's a second property in that same complex that was purchased for your wife's brother. That actually was about twice the size and cost about twice the amount of money. Is that correct?
Так,
Yeah.
так, це правильно, але
Yes, yes, that is correct, but this apartment was bought and it is still in the state it was bought in, because there hasn't been any renovation done there. It remained like that. I mean, the parents of, in Ukraine, it is accustomed to help children, and they bought this apartment, one apartment for a student to study. Maybe the following apartment will be used when he gets married, because that's, again, one apartment, but again, these are their plans. And again, I would like to explain that from the point of anti-corruption legislation, I put mother-in-law and father-in-law because this is how the legislation is interpreted. But we live on different floors. Our budget is this. We have one budget only for food. All the other expenses are totally different. But not to violate this legislation, I couldn't omit them from the declaration because it doesn't reflect the fact that we don't have joint household. Okay.
I just have one further area, which is in your application, you indicated that you had a residence permit in the United Kingdom until December 31st, 2024. Can you tell me why you had that permit, and do you plan on, or did you plan on, or do you plan on using it?
Цей дозвіл в нас був.
Yes, we did have that permit. It was due to the fact that in Ukraine a full-scale invasion of the Russian Federation started, and the UK gave an opportunity for Ukrainians to live according to Homes for Ukraine program. And we decided, just in case, to have at least some permit that allows us to stay on the territory of another state officially. But actually, we went in summer for several weeks. We visited the UK because this permit, and to get the permit, we needed to be personally present there. So we got this permit, but afterwards we haven't used it a single time. We came back to Ukraine and never came back to the UK. Its term has expired and we haven't renewed it. It was like a plan B, because we have 3 minors in our family, 3 children, and nobody knew back in 2022 what would happen next. In the beginning, everyone accumulated their efforts to support the armed forces. Then we wanted to take care of a plan B. If something goes wrong, then we would have an opportunity, at least for my wife and children, to go abroad officially.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions at this time.
My colleague. Norman, Mary, if you don't mind, I have a question. I've been listening to everything you have been discussing and trying to just absorb what's going on. And maybe my understanding is wrong, but what I see is someone who has a relatively low income, who says that he, let's say, only spend 30% to live on and assemble 70% in order to pay for everything what he wants to buy. And then I see that you buy quite nice cars. A car of $25,000, which seems to be a lot of money for a car here. Another car, and there's holiday expenses, quite extensive. There's a loan to the father-in-law, I see acquisition of all kinds of assets, houses, whatever. I see two, let's say, real estate things that are owned by you. And of course, I listened to your explanation. And then the question that arises to me is, let's say that you would be elected in the High Anti-Corruption Court and that the public in Ukraine listens to what we discussed here. How can they have trust in you as you would be appointed the judge? Because it looks a lot of assets. While how you obtained it, you must have been living on very, very little money. That seems to be so strange. And so maybe you can explain to me why the people in Ukraine would have trust in you as a judge, taking into consideration all those assets you have assembled, the nice car you're driving, the fact that you have 3 children that have to go to school and has to be clothed, and that you have to, let's say, buy for food and anything. I have 4 children and they cost a fortune. Maybe it's a lot cheaper here, but still, they do cost a fortune. So I struggle with that. That of course I hear your explanations. Those explanations go bit by bit, but if you look at the total, it looks like a lot of assets. Buying expensive stuff and little income. That's what I see.
Я можу пояснити?
Can I explain?
Yes.
I can explain.
На рахунок кожного активу, який є,
As for each asset which I have, I can explain because my father-in-law is a private entrepreneur since 2000. My mother-in-law is self-employed. They were saving money since that time, and the property that they bought actually matches the level, the lifestyle that they had. As for the property, my part of the family, so me, my wife bought, I provided those explanations, and if we come back to the house where we live in, so for example, father-in-law is a private entrepreneur, his main type of activity is renting out facilities. So the facility which we live in, he built it himself. So I mean, this is not a bought house, it is a built house. As for another facility, he bought it together with other people. So that's his type of activity. He bought this building, he invited some experts, and this really saves up money. All the cars which were in my property and which are in my property now, in my ownership, they haven't emerged from nowhere. They were received from legal sources and all taxes were paid. And when asked how should the public trust me as a potential judge of high anti-corruption court, in my motivation letter, I noted that my family at this time is financially independent and I'm ready to bear responsibility. And the goal, my goal to become a judge is not about getting some great profits. Of course, there is a work that is paid for.
And I can tell my students, other people with whom I cooperate, they can be open saying it because, my remuneration corresponds to my income. Official income is publicly available and my expenses correspond to my life and activities which I carry out.
What I'm struggling with is that what I'm struggling with is that we as PCIe, we have to consider whether there is or there is not reasonable doubt about someone's integrity. And then again, when I listen to all of this, of course I hear your explanation, but we cannot check it that it is so. And it's so strange. On the one hand, that you have such a low income, and on the other hand, you have so many assets. And that's the point. And maybe you can take away this, let's say, this feeling I have that I don't understand how this is possible. That you acquire all those assets, that you have to drive in these nice cars, you have the 3 children, And on the other hand, you have this relatively low income to do all of that. You must be a magician with money. That's a bit what I feel. Maybe you can comment on that.
Звичайно, можу прокоментувати всі пояснення. Я надав. Я розумію ваша робота як громадської ради міжнародних експертів.
So I understand. So I provided all explanations, and all explanations I have provided. I understand that your work as a PCIe is to doubt all information. But if you look, I think that my family belongs to the medium class. I am a lecturer at the university. I'm the associate professor. I have an academic title, and everything that is envisaged for me according to official salary schemes and rates, that's what I get. I can't have anything else because I work at the university. My explanations, and if we look specifically at the properties that I have, so we have purchased a house. My wife's parents purchased apartment. The house owned by my wife, that's property of her grandparents. This is specifically what our managed to maintain and multiply in terms of property. It doesn't cause any doubts regarding me because Ukrainians are those people who know how to save and accumulate. So my parents have been living for a whole life in the village and they provide food to us. So of course I can make some photos of my minus first floor where all our cans with canned food is stored. But that's how we live. That's how all Ukrainians, they know how to live. I can only say that my family's expenses correspond to our income. I don't have any other explanation.
You have your income, which you explained, and you have children. I have had children. I've never been able to save a lot when I had the children that had to be raised because they cost a fortune. And I'm also struggling with the idea that you are able to save 70%. 70%. That's enormous. It means, yeah. Possibly it's possible in Ukraine if you grow your own vegetables on a piece of land. Well, I will stop my consideration. Yes, Jessica.
Можна маленький коментар.
A small comment only from my side regarding 30% that I have already mentioned. These are expenses on just basic needs, on food and clothing. All other large expenses, they are indicated in this table as a separate line. And just for your convenience to understand what money were spent on what, I filled in a separate table in order not to say with general words. You know, that's how it is. Yeah, I could have formulated it in a different manner, like 60% expenses, and to include there also large expenses. But I just received your questions regarding vehicles and property, and that's why I included it as separate lines in the table. So not 30% were all our expenses, of course more, but that's for your convenience how I filled in the table.
Okay, thank you. Jessica?
Yeah, I'll also just ask a small question here. You have mentioned that your house where you live, this house from the declaration from 2018, it was in disrepair. It required renovation, it required work, and that the price was low. It's my understanding because the house later had work. Perhaps you can explain this better for me, because the area that I would like to understand better is if the value of the house in your declaration, even after some improvements are made, if you are reporting accurately the current value of the house when you're reporting it.
Ні, це не той
No,
будинок, де ми
that's not that house where we live. We live at the house at the Obogricha village. And the house that is mentioned in 2018, it was a house which was purchased, but it's not in use as of now.
Yes, I'm sorry. This is the house that is, you are not renting it. It is vacant, this house. It is empty.
Так, він стоїть
Okay.
порожній, ми
Yeah,
там
it's
зробили
vacant.
просто
Yeah, we have just,
велике прибирання.
so we just carried out big cleanings and that's all.
Okay, my question is about the declared value of that property and the accuracy of the declared value. Can you have some commentary about whether or not the declared value is accurate to the quality and status of that property now?
Задекларовано, коли
Declared, so when the declaration is filled in, one indicates the value of property as of the moment of the purchase. So that was the value of the property at the moment of the purchase in 2018. Afterwards, the evaluation was not carried out because, as I have mentioned, only capital or general cleaning was carried out there and renewal of water supply. There were no needs or no reasons to carry out any kind of new evaluation there. Only if I'm going to sell it or alienate it, transfer it for other ownership, then I will have a new evaluation of the property value.
Yeah, I have no further questions.
Mary, Norman? No? Over to you, Mr. Chair.
Пане Михайлович, будуть питання, але звертаю увагу на регламент. Ну, ми трохи перевищили вже
We
зараз.
are a little bit beyond our timing, just raising your attention regarding our time slots. Yeah, thank you. I will be concise. I have only a few questions. So that's again regarding the legitimacy of fund sources of the candidate and of the family. So in your motivation letter, Mr. Oleksandr, you say, given your life experience, professional experience, and your experience of interaction with people, and I'm quoting here, that I can say that I'm ready for such level of responsibility as a judge. So the questions that right now are under discussion, so responsibility-wise, that's actually envisaged as a reason by legislation for a judge to be dismissed from their position. If a judge fails to fulfill the constitutional duty to confirm the legitimacy of the origin of sources of funds of the judge and their family members. That's first important aspect. Secondly, when you were speaking about your mother and father-in-law, as you live in one household, you think that there are signs of that comply with the criteria of a family composition, and according to the family code, you need to declare them. This duty to declare them, it's also a reason for you to have a duty to explain the origin of funds not only of yours, but also of your family members, because you declare mother and father-in-law as your family members, and it means that you have a duty to confirm and to prove the legitimacy of the origin of their funds as your family members. Very briefly, as we are limited in time with your interview regarding 2024. It was also discussed today, yeah? And the PCA member has mentioned it. You have purchased Toyota RAV4 vehicle, yeah? Did your wife also purchase another vehicle that year? That year, not Toyota, sorry, it was another vehicle. Opel. Cross. Toyota RAV4 was purchased in 2025. Yes, but what about your wife in 2025? Did she purchase anything else? So 2024. Yes, so it means prior to the purchase of Toyota RAV4, vehicle at the price of more than 4 million. We are adding here purchase of Opel with a price of more than 2 million, and we have not yet discussed it, and we didn't add it up to other expenses. No, these were savings before that period, but again, if we take into consideration this purchase of Opel vehicle, it also takes some savings from the general amount of savings that you explained as a reason for purchase of another vehicle. So that's here we have adding another problem to all the explanations that you have provided to us. It will be hard to motivate and justify your such property purchases. Another station. I'm sorry. Here, Opel was purchased in November 21, not 2024. Okay. Then regarding savings and such huge amount of savings that you managed to accumulate, as you explained, please explain again. And also regarding your lifestyle, which so you had, based on information available for us and which we analyze, you and your family members were abroad for different trips repeatedly to UAE, Dubai, United Arab Emirates, and so on, and other trips which are not cheap ones. It was only one trip. If we are speaking about it, Italy, Hurghada, Egypt, so at least one trip per year, even after the start of the full-scale invasion. Those things were mentioned at the table, where we have expenses for traveling as a separate line. Starting the full-scale invasion, we traveled several times to acquaintances. We visited acquaintances of my mother-in-law in Italy, and we traveled there by car. And what about other trips? Yeah, they were also there, and they mentioned at this table as expenses on. Okay, thank you. And we were speaking also about purchase a one-bedroom apartment in Kyiv with an area of up to 50 square meters. Yes, at the same year, another apartment was purchased with an area more than 100 square meters, located at the same compound building. It was documented that year, but they were purchased in different years. So one apartment, this area more than 40 square meters, was purchased according to the preliminary agreement back in 2019. And another apartment with area of more than 100 square meters, the ownership rights, when was it registered? Back in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Who is the owner, the nominal owner? The son of my parents-in-law. So yes, he's a student. Yes, and I explained that funds for purchase of that apartment were provided by his parents. If, according to your words, his parents provided funds to purchase such an apartment with area of more than 100 square meters, then follow-up question, did they have enough money to purchase other types and other objects of property, as we have discussed before? In my explanations, I have provided information. I can repeat it again, that my wife's parents have been working all the time. They have not been at civil service ever, and during that period of time, apart of their own funds and savings, they have also alienated a 3-bedroom apartment, garage, and residential house at the stage of unfinished construction. They are private entrepreneurs, and it means a private entrepreneur and a self-employed person. And starting 2023, they have been already pensioners, so started receiving pensions. And yeah, okay, clear. Thank you. Thank you for your explanations. Again, your approach and your explanations, I know them, but I base my assumptions based on data which you filled into the declaration as a person who are obliged to carry out functions of local self-governance authorities. So the year before such huge expenses, so your cash funds of you and your wife, 500,000, your parents-in-law, 600,000 hryvnia. Declaration for 2018, the same. It doesn't confirm any cash funds which could allow to purchase such objects of property. Based on the extract from different registers, tax registers, also doesn't give us any assurance that you have enough funds. Based on regarding the tax reports and tax extracts from different registers, a self-employed person shall submit a different kind of declaration, and the sum that is filled in there is different. So I saw the dossier and I saw information received from the tax authorities. The sums there differ from other reports. I'm not a specialist in the tax legislation, but what's accounted there is what actually was transferred into the bank account. So it works as automatic withdrawal, but a self-employed person shall submit a relevant declaration as of 1st April to show and report income for the current year. So I checked this information and it's different. So you shall take into account such declarations of self-employed persons. So you think that such declaration and income declared in such declaration is enough to purchase such types of property. And what about your declaration, which you declared as savings of your family members? As far as I understand, they were not also reflected there. In 2018, I indicated them. In 2022, I think that I also indicated it. For 2023 or 2024, I failed to indicate it because I reached out to get some information, but then the procedures were a little bit long ones. I needed they needed to take some time to make calculations. My parents-in-law tell me that they don't want to make this information publicly available. And how did you declare that you don't have such information?
Yes, did not provide. I just chose did not provide information. Okay. Failure to declare objects where you work. I work in Zhytomyr Polytechnic University based on the contract, and we've agreed that I will conduct my lectures remotely from my permanent place of residence. I will come to university those events that are important or that are necessary. So you do not live there. No, I did not live there personally. Okay. Next question. With respect to failure to declare objects at the place of actual residence. At Shevchenko Street. I will not specify further in detail. That's declared. When I got a request, it was clear why that looks like it's not declared. But in the list of documents that stipulated office, residential, non-residential premises, we live in that residential part. And I've provided the technical passport with schemes where these premises are located. So that the address is declared, that's there. Okay, and in section 3 of the declaration, a real estate object, do you declare those objects? You declare that it's a registered place of residence. Yes, all of these objects are declared in 2024. You declared them. Yes, I did. That's my father's-in-law property, so I declared that. And in response to the request, I provided the entire list and all the agreements and title documents. In 2024? Okay. During the period from 2022 to 2024, your wife, as you said, based on the agreement on shared activities, used the office at the same address, yes? Well, that's the joint office of my mother-in-law and my wife. They are both notaries and they work in the same office, yes. Do you declare this object? Yes, it's declared as office premises. A separate object of real estate. Yes. In your declaration. Yes, it's stipulated in the declaration.
Чиє право користування зареєстровано?
Whose right of use is registered?
Право користування.
The right to use?
Об'єкт декларуєте?
Are you declaring the property rights for the object? In which section are you declaring that object as real estate object owned by family members?
Речове право дружини.
And what about the wife's property rights as she's using the subject? Are you declaring that?
Це майно сім'ї.
That's the property of the family, probably some.
Я, напевно, що неправильно
Probably I've misunderstood. I didn't understand that I had to declare it separately. As far as I understand from the explanations, everything that is owned by the family, I do not have to declare that. Okay. Please, if you have any more questions. Good afternoon, Polish Commission member. I would like to follow up on the document for your right to live abroad. When did you get that document? In summer of 2022. In summer 22. Where did you live back then? In Bogorodichany, in the same place as now. Which region? Ivano-Frankivsk region. So you went abroad from Ivano-Frankivsk, yes? Yes. The status that you have, does it envision protection? No. What is the status? That envisions stay abroad, so there were no payments made. Were you there as a refugee or as a person in need of protection? In connection with what did you get this document? That was the program for Ukrainians. For Ukrainians as whom? Did this program exist before 2022? But for 2022, I don't know. Before the full-scale invasion, probably no. Then what was the status of yours as a person who needs the protection? No, but as who then? Just as a citizen of Ukraine in the country, from the country where the war is ongoing, yes. But I did not get any payments. See, I'm not asking about payments, I'm asking about the status. So, when you got this document, you had, according to the law of that country, you had to have a status of the refugee or the person in need of protection. Then the status of the person in need for protection. It was not mentioned there. That was an invitation of the party from the UK, and that's it. Again, this program did not exist before the start of the full-scale invasion, right? I understand, but as of 2022, when documents were filled in the full-scale invasion started, we did not know what would happen next. I'm asking about the status in which you got this document. That's my first question. My second question, back then, did you have the deferment from military service? Yes, of course, because I have 3 children. When is your oldest child turning 18? The oldest child, without identifying. Surnames, names, nothing. Just when? In 2028. 2028. Okay, thank you. As of now, you do not have this document anymore. No, it expired. We did not send it. Okay, thank you. Colleagues, do you have any other questions? Yes, please. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Oleksandr. Tell me, please, at the beginning of our interview, you said that you are saving money. You are also converting, among other things, into euros, dollars. Instead, I'm looking at your most recent declaration, and there, in monetary assets, you are keeping all of that in hryvnia. There we have 900 and 600,000. So how does it correspond to your initial statement? Thank you. We chose those ways of saving that were convenient and appropriate. When we did not have any purchases, then we were accumulating savings in foreign currency and then converting that international currency for purchases. As of now, the national currency is relatively stable. And since we had a big purchase in 2025, that's why I've reflected that in national currency, that is in hryvnia. Do we have any other questions? Mr. Serhiy, please. Mr. Oleksandr, good afternoon again. We are talking about your possibilities regarding income expenses. I would like to, first of all, point out that with respect to a well-known information, that banks give credits based on the calculation that a person can save 30%. And that's only from income. If that is not enough for credit payments, you need more than that, then bank refuse to provide credit. So 70% of savings, that's somehow does not correspond to the life in Ukraine. And to this 30% that established bank, that's obviously inflated expectations, because there might be force majeures. So 70% of savings from the income does not correlate to the reality. As explained, that it was without major expenses. Okay, I'm not about that. Your wife is a private notary. We are Ukrainians, we live in Ukraine, and we obviously understand that income of a private notary allows affording all of the purchases that you have. But I would like to point out the other thing. I've looked through the tax declaration of a self-employed person, but your wife is declaring minimum income. 2016, 28,000. I looked at the currency exchange dollar. It was the average 25 hryvnias per dollar. So she declared slightly more than $1,000 per month. $1,000 per year, not even per month. 28,000 hryvnias per year. Then next year, 53,000 hryvnias. That is $2,000 per year. Then 52,000. So actually, don't you think that the external observer that we are mentioning all the time, a reasonable person who can look, who is law obedient and who is reasonable and who can watch our interview, maybe this person might have such an impression that your wife is earning money as a private notary, but she is not declaring her income. Can I explain? Yes, please. Look, in those years that you mentioned, we have 3 children, and actually, for some period of time, starting from the birth of a child, my wife was combining work with looking after children. And for example, from 2009 to 2020, while children were not going to school, this income was lower. Then, when my wife completely resumed her professional activity, income started increasing. And until in those years that you named, we had one purchase, that is the purchase of the car, and then all the other property that corresponded to the income that we had. I can agree with you that starting from 2020, the declared income of your wife has been increasing, but in 2020, that was 112,000 hryvnias, that is $4,000 per year. And in 2021, they decreased slightly, that was 109,000 hryvnias per year. Well, agree with me that it's very insignificant income, even just for an ordinary person, not even a private notary. We had my income as well, then income started increasing because the land market opened, and we live in a settlement where it's important Besides, the media sometimes make waves. No, my question is not about that. Tell me, please. I've asked the question, can an external observer, a law-obedient, reasonable person who will watch our interview, have an impression that your wife is not just declaring her income? If we take into account the explanation that she was combining work with looking after children, then I think that no one would have this question. Thank you so much for your answer. Colleagues, do you have any other questions? No? Thank you. Dear members of the PCAE, maybe you have some questions to the candidate.
Mary Norman? No, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Добре, дякую, пане Олександре.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oleksandr. Thank you for the interview. Now you have an opportunity to address the HQCJ PCA members. Maybe you would like to provide some additional information, some explanations, but please be concise. I do not have any additional information and explanations. Thank you for cooperation. Thank you for your work. It's really important, and I can confirm as a candidate that the check is really very thorough. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Now I'm announcing the interview over. Goodbye, and